They dropped thousands of dead mice onto the American island, and what happened next was truly horrifying. In the heart of the Pacific, Guam, a remote U.S. territory, was once a lush paradise with countless birds singing under the heat-green forest canopy. But now, this place has become an ecological battlefield, where humans resort to a bizarre method: dropping dead mice from the sky to deal with an unexpected disaster. It sounds like a joke, but on one particular afternoon, over 2,000 mice were dropped from helicopters hovering above. Each mouse was pumped full of painkillers, drugs seemingly meant only for humans, and attached to a piece of cardboard and green tissue paper, forming special parachutes for the mice. These parachutes prevented the mice from free falling, allowing them to gently land on the forest canopy, where the main enemy lurks, the brown tree snake. Inside the helicopters, trained experts released the mice at precise intervals, even equipping them with tracking devices and a few reluctant soldiers. A scene from a sci-fi movie, It. The US has deployed a campaign worth nearly $192 billion to save the collapsing ecosystem here. The story began 70 years ago, after World War II, when the brown tree snake, a ruthless invader from Australia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands, sneaked onto Guam via military ships or aircraft. No one knows exactly where they came from, possibly Mongoose Island. But how they invaded, clinging to ship hulls or crawling into airplane wheels, remains a terrifying mystery. Only 50 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide, the small island of Guam quickly became a hell for 2 million brown tree snakes. A number beyond control. When young, they only eat lizards. But as adults, reaching up to 3 meters in length, they turn into hunting machines. Mice, birds, or anything that moves becomes a target. They swallow birds weighing 30% of their own body weight. Once, a greedy snake even swallowed prey weighing up to 80% of its weight. In just one generation, 75% of the island's birds were wiped out. Within a few years, 10 of the 12 native bird species went extinct. With birds gone, they turned to hunting lizards, reptiles, and spared no creature. But the consequences didn't stop there. Birds disappeared, spiders exploded, their numbers increasing 40-fold compared to neighboring islands. Only 2 bird species remain, with fewer than 200 individuals, helpless against the rampant spider population. Forests once filled with, now lie silent like cemeteries. Seeds are no longer dispersed. 60 to 70% of trees depend on birds, causing catastrophic. Wild pigs and invasive deer dig out and eat saplings, reducing forest regeneration capacity by up to 90%. The island's ecosystem is choked with no way out. Moreover, brown tree snakes attack infrastructure. They climb power poles, touch transformers, causing shorts, leading to frequent power outages on the island. Since 2005, there have been an average of 80 incidents, causing damage of about 96 billion Vietnamese dong. Over 20 years, more than 2,000 power outages have occurred, sometimes leaving just a corner of the island dark. Sometimes, more frighteningly, they have spread across the Pacific, appearing in Micronesia, Christmas Island, and Hawaii, where fragile ecosystems have never known the concept of predator. And so, from the skies of Guam, over 2,000 head mice were dropped not to scare, but for snakes to eat and die from the poison. This is a crazy and expensive plan. It is the last for the island strangled by snakes for 7 decades. Will it be enough to save Guam from this disaster? No one dares to be sure of the answer. Although the brown tree snake is venomous, their toxicity is only enough to paralyze lizards, and does not pose a direct danger to adults, as their fangs cannot penetrate clothing. However, this snake is creating a serious threat to Guam's tourism industry, an island with about 160,000 residents, where the economy heavily depends on tourists. Imagine you are enjoying a vacation on an island where every corner hides risks, from venomous snakes, spiders, and unexpected power out. But the reality is even worse, as the brown tree snake has caused billions in damage to both the ecosystem and people. Clearly, a solution is necessary, not only to save tourism but also to protect nature and the island's infrastructure. Before deciding to use dead mice, every method was tried. snake traps, hunting dogs, professional snake hunters, but all failed. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to Mystery. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to Mystery. Researchers also attach radio transmitters to the mice to track their movements in the natural environment. However, for this method to succeed, a crucial factor is that snakes must find the bait within 2 because after this period, under tropical climate conditions, the mice will start to decompose and no longer be attractive enough to snakes. Despite facing many challenges, scientists and authorities persist with this strategy. From 2013 to now, at least 4 mouse drops of it, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture has planned to release up to 40,000 poisoned mice in subsequent camp to control the spread and minimize the harm of the brown tree snake to the ecosystem and people. But is this method truly safe? And does it pose a danger to other animals? According to research, a dog or pig would need to eat at least 500 mice to be poisoned, while a cat requires about 15. This shows the method primarily targets snakes, as other animals are not severely affected. In reality, only forest monitor lizards and iguanas are. However, because the mice are stuck in the trees, they do not attract these animals. Although monitor lizards can climb trees, they rarely hunt for. However, this campaign has not been without criticism. PETA, the world's largest non-profit organization, with a mission to protect animal rights, has condemned this method as cruel. They argue that snakes eating poisoned mice will cause internal and lead to days of suffering before death. Some animal rights activists recommend capturing snakes and performing humane euthanasia, but the current strategy still has its reasonable justification. One of them is the extensive coverage. Dropping drug-laced mice from helicopters allows the lift over a wide area, saving manpower and costs, compared to using traps. However, can this method completely eradicate snakes from? Although the campaign began in 2013, so far there has been no information about any major victory. The U.S. government states that the goal is only to control the snake population, as completely eradicating is impossible. A key reason is the vastness of northern and southern Guam, where dealing with snakes is nearly impossible. They cannot all be captured, and spraying poison over such a large area is also very difficult. Importantly, brown tree snakes have not invaded the entire island, which is common since inception. Most snakes only live in dense forests that are difficult for humans to access, which is both an advantage and a major challenge. The fight against the brown tree snake continues. Since 2020, the U.S. Department of the Interior announced an investment of about $80 billion to address this issue. Although it is unclear whether the method of dropping drug-laced mice will continue, it is clear that this idea is not new. Humans have long used various measures to combat invasive species. So, will this strategy succeed? The answer remains unclear, but the battle continues. This is a classic example of invasive species encroachment, an uncompromising war with nature. Imagine a peaceful scene where an isolated coral island in the South China Sea thrives with a natural, harmonious never disturbed by human hands. A place where animals live in absolute safety, with no enemies, but that was only before a silent invader appeared, the black rat. Initially, they were just a small group brought over from passing cargo ships. These creatures are not only small but also dangerous and unpredictable. No one expected their invasion could lead to disaster. But when the rat population began to increase rapidly, they became an irreversible threat. This threat did not stop at surface destruction, but was a silent ecological war, with catastrophic and irreparable consequences. By the end of the 20th century, when rats had nearly taken over young birds, crabs, and even eggs, even young trees could not escape their attacks. Nowhere was safe. The endemic birds, accustomed to living only in pristine environments, were merciless. Bird nests were destroyed overnight, leaving behind shattered eggs that never had a chance to hatch. Rats ate everything, from seeds to living creatures. All were destroyed to satisfy their endlessly greedy mouths. A great chain of unforeseen losses. A great chain of unforeseen losses. A great chain of unforeseen losses. Until humans could no longer stand by and had to take action. In 2011, a rat eradication campaign was launched, but it was not like ordinary military campaigns. Rather, it was a powerful and uncompromising assault. Rat poison was thrown from the air by helicopters. The poisonous pellets were dropped like bombs, falling into every corner of the island. But the threat did not stop at eliminating rats. There was also concern that other animals, non-rat species, could be affected. The environment was too fragile and vulnerable. But in the end, the rats were eradicated, and Palmyra Island returned to the tranquility of nature, though the price paid was too high. Palmyra is just one of countless examples showing that the invasion of alien species has been and continues to suffer serious consequences all over the world. Looking at the Galapagos Islands, a land was called the laboratory of creation, where Darwin's finches once lived peacefully. In their isolated world, one can truly see the devastating extent of damage that alien species can cause. Invasive species do not just reduce population numbers, or cause a few species to disappear. They also disrupt an entire ecological network that nature took millions of years to build. There, the alien rats did not merely eat bird eggs or attack young birds. They collapse the inherently fragile ecological structure. Once they take over, they cause other species to lose their habitats, lose their food sources, and ultimately is to lose the chance of survival. Even the rare creatures, considered symbols of the Galapagos, cannot escape the rapid spread and devastation of the rat species. These rats have severely invaded the environment. Pinchon Island, one of the Galapagos Islands, was once home to a population of giant tortoises. But when the rats appeared, they began destroying all the tortoise eggs, preventing the new generation from being born. The old tortoises still live, but the young have no chance to survive. Thus, the giant tortoise population fell into a state on the brink of extinction. The entire island ecosystem was taken over by the rats that had occupied Pinchon Island. This led to a large-scale campaign being launched. People spread rat poison all over the island, like a chemical rain, to stop the invasion. It was an uncompromising counterattack, a battle for survival. But that intervention was not without controversy, because the poison does not discriminate between species, and also affects iguanas, snakes. That ecological war was a harsh test. Sacrificing the minority to save the majority. Is that the only way to protect the rest of nature? And then, after many months of tireless effort, the campaign brought results. The rats were eliminated, and baby tortoises began hatching again after decades of absence. Pinchon Island gradually recovered. The green of life is returning, slowly but hopefully. However, the price paid for that recovery was not cheap, because it is not just money, effort, but also immeasurable losses from other creatures affected by the campaign. Stories like those in the Galapagos are not just biological wrecks, but also a clear warning about the risk of invasive species that cannot be underestimated. Once they invade, nowhere is safe. A seemingly small species can also change the ecological balance. And what makes people reflect deeply is when humans believe they can control nature. Nature itself responds with unimaginable upheavals. Entering the 21st century, humanity is not only facing climate change, but also stepping into a silent, yet dangerous war. The war with the very creatures that humans brought to the wrong place at the wrong time. A war where, if we do not act from today, the cost will not just be the disappearance of a bird species, a turtle, but it could also be the future of all of us. Please subscribe to continue exploring with us the magical hidden corners of the natural world, where every story contains profound lessons about life, gratitude, and things seemingly forgotten. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Hello and see you again in the next exciting. Subscribe to the Guia Nico channel. See